Andrew Tate a Psy-Op for the right. So we talk about the World Economic Forum, we talk about the Club of Rome, NATO, all these organizations that are these Psy-Ops, these political ops, operations for pushing agendas, right? And they tend to be on the left side of the spectrum, really the Fabian socialist, not liberal. Liberal is a bastardized term. A classic liberal is someone who's actually for freedom and liberty, stuff like that. So they're not liberal people. These are the Fabianist, socialist, Marxist type of people. Those were the World Economic Forum are from, and Club of Rome, and all these people, right? So Andrew Tate, B.J. Dichter, one of my good friends, talks about this a lot, and I think it's a brilliant point. Is that he was just telling the story again this week. Our political spaces we do on every Wednesday from 1 to 2. Come join us on Twitter, talking about politics and Bitcoin. But he talks about, we just had a big discussion about Andrew Tate the other day and why he went viral. And BJ just made a great point. And it's something I thought about a while ago, but I haven't thought about in a while. I thought about it with the trans stuff, actually, and places that will throw out red meat to people on the right side of the spectrum or the conservative side of the spectrum or what have you. And he said that you have to be aware of, there's not only red meat being tossed out on the left, but it's also being tossed out on the right. And there's people controlling people on the right as well, and trying to get views, trying to get clicks, and then helping these people manage their message, stuff like that. The Paul brothers, like all these people that they have people behind them that are doing things and telling them things to do certain ways. And I think some of these guys are actually very smart, very brilliant. If you actually listen to Andrew Tate, or if you actually listen to Jake Paul or something like that, these guys are actually very smart. They're whip smart. They're not, they sit there for hours and they can talk and talk and talk. The average person can't do that. The average 10, 12, 15, 25-year-old who just sat in front of a video screen for the last 15 years straight, they can't talk to you like Jake Paul can, or like Andrew Tate can. I'm not saying they're rocket scientists, but they are smart individuals. They know what's going on, but they also have handlers, right? They also have PR people. They also have people that are helping them, and they can be politically controlled too, and they can also be boosted or shadow banned by the algorithms too. If you look at Twitter now, who Elon's going the conservative right direction, I guess, right now. And before he was left, now he's the right direction. Who knows? But then you have it on the other side too, right? The algorithm pops up these other people, whether it's the Gretas of the world, people on the left, entertainers, celebrities, and then their things get promoted. So the whole point BJ was trying to make is that you have to be very careful of the psyops, which are just political ops, going on all the time. They're always going around right? They've been going on for thousands of years through the paper, through everything. We finally just had this breakthrough over the last number of decades. Stephen Luca talked about this earlier today on Cafe Bitcoin, and numerous people were talking about it. Nico, this time of and we've talked about it here too, where you have the disintermediation of media, where you have the Nosters of the world, and Zion, and Twitter now is centralized, but it's at least more free-ish now. But you have these other truly decentralized free platforms, and so now the state is very scared, because now they don't have control over the message like they used to. They used to have full control. Now they don't have full control. So now that's why you see the violence, division, and hate. All of it's propagated from the top. People, you walk down the street and people don't want to hate each other. That's not what humans generally are wanting to do. But all the division and the hate, everything. Like, you look at the lockdowns, people were literally tattling on each other and being evil towards each other because of the side they chose to be on or whatever to do with their body. That was all propagated by the media. That was all propagated. I saw these people. We had people in our families, extended families, giving information in chat groups saying, like, hey, this is a person I study. You should, listen to her. You go actually do the homework and actually trust but verify, and then go actually watch what people do. There's people that were playing themselves off, like, I'm talking Ivy League professors, everything, playing off like they were medical professionals, but they weren't. They were economics professors, and then telling you to withhold your children if someone doesn't inject something into their veins, that you should withhold your children from your grandparents to show them, send a message, and do all this stuff. Psychotic behavior. But people trying to play off like they're medical people, but they're actually economics professors, and then you have people in your family pushing this stuff on you like it's actual, real, scientific explanations. This is the clown world. But this is the stuff that was being propagated for the last 3 years, and propagated really for decades, forever. And only now do we have the ability to then go check on these things, and to go research these things and actually check and actually verify what's been done. And now we see people all the time with community notes, fact checking, for whatever that's worth. But community notes is probably one of the best versions of that so far. But just in general, like Twitter itself, people just getting called out. Like, no, that wasn't the best thing the other day. The best thing I've seen this week is the Socialist Party leader, whoever it was in Spain, flying to the climate conference, wherever it was, and then getting out on a bike in like biking the last couple hundred yards or whatever it was, meters, or a mile, last kilometer, whatever the heck it was. And they've got video. It's like these people, the Fiat Legacy system, the Fiat Legacy politicians, and the Fiat Legacy, academia, administrators, and everything, the people, again, I don't want to age into this, but unfortunately you have to. The people, really probably 50, 60, and up, generally 60 and up, my parents' age and older, they are the ones who seemingly have this massive cognitive dissonance where they don't understand, like, life has changed. Everyone's got a camera, guys. You can't just like do ridiculous stuff and then expect other people to just believe whatever you're doing. This lady thinks it's like a good idea. You can just see her handlers like, well, this would be a great idea. We're just going to hop you on a bike right here. Don't worry. We'll get the people around you. We're just going to cycle you in like you're Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And they're going to come in like, oh, hey, look at me. And this is just being recorded the entire time. So this is why the trust has fallen in politicians, in media, everything, because it's being covered up left and right. You have two-tiered justice system. You've got one family that was in office being, claimed they were a crime family, and then the one that's actually in is the crime family. And you go on and on, right? The CIA director, the FBI director, just this week can't even answer half the questions that are going on. So no one believes anything that's going on. And I think about the Bubba Effect. Glenn Beck used to talk about this 10 years ago, where the Bubba Effect was a military term, I believe. You got chipmunks fighting back here. And it was where it was top down, bottom up revolution. And it was because no one believed anything. And Glenn Beck said, Glenn Beck has predicted so many things that have been accurate. So many things. It's been wrong. I've followed him for 15 years, over 15 years. And I haven't watched him much in the last like 5-6 years, but all the predictions he made from like 05, 07, somewhere in there, all the way to like 2015, 2016, he's got to be batting like 8 or 900. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 things, he's got it right. It's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. So I always looked at him as a prophet in a way, because he would just constantly get things right. And then I realized as I got older, I was in my early 20s, and then later 20s, I realized like, oh, he's just reading the tea leaves, basically. He's just reading history. He was a huge history buff, right? And then he would see what those patterns that were going on and say, oh my gosh, we're going here. We're going to this place. And he would talk about the Bubba Effect and say that their whole plan was to destabilize, the central bankers and the globalists and the one world government people. Their whole plan was to destabilize America through collapse of the institutions. And this was this is like right when Obama's getting in. Like, this is before things got really crazy. Occupy Wall Street, the financial markets crashing, everything. And he talked about them destabilizing the country through the lack of trust in the institutions, everything, even the military, in the police, everything. So what do we had the last couple years? Defund the police. The military is a disaster. We've got all kinds of ridiculous stuff going on in the military, the millies of the world, all these things. We woke this and woke that. We are all over the map. My point is, whether you're into the woke stuff or not, doesn't matter, actually. It's that we're doing everything but training people for war. We have no idea what's going on. We're so worried about everything else that we're missing the forest and the trees. And this lends to massive problems going forward. And this is where the trust is broken down. And now you have a society that no one trusts anybody. That's a society that's not going to last long. My founding fathers talk about this all the time. If you don't have moral, ethical, religious, and Christian government in America here, this experiment will fail. And these are things you can go look up. These are things that you'll never be taught in government-run school, because that's not part of the agenda. The agenda isn't to teach you the truth and actually tell you what happened and what was going on. The agenda of government-run schools is to give you a narrative and have an agenda they want you to follow and they want you to be brainwashed with, which is, it's not something to be mad about. It's something to understand and start understanding where we came from and where we need to go going forward. So BJ was right. You have to understand both sides. You have to understand that both sides are playing you. Both sides are, politically, are in on the same thing. It's a uniparty. You have to understand that. We have to be involved locally in our politics, because all politics are local. You have to be involved. Meet your local rancher. Meet your local sheriff. Your sheriff is there to uphold the Constitution. This goes for any city, any in the world, any country in the world, any state in the world, any province in the world. It doesn't matter. You have to be involved locally and to understand what is going on, because that's where things really are affected. Trying to just work for vote for the president, that's it. Good luck. You can't have, the bigger something gets and the more bloated it gets and the more federalized something gets, it's farther away from you. And so there's no empathy, because there's tens of thousands of people in between you and the decision maker. So they don't care about you. A monolith government, this huge government, can't worry about the individual. And that's what the founding fathers knew. And that's why they gave us a certain government and a certain governing style, so that it served the individual the best instead of making blanket decisions for everybody. So I think it was a great point by BJ that we have to understand that both sides, we have to keep removing the cognitive dissonance out of our life. So important. We have to keep checking the beam in our eye instead of worrying about the splinter in someone else's eye. So I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk. Please let me know what your thoughts are on this. I know there are some interesting things here in this video, so please let me know your thoughts on it. Please share it out, because the algorithm hates truth. Trust but verify. Question everything's boldness, even the existence of God himself. It's not financial advice, it's freedom advice. And I'll see you on the next one.